Welcome to the tutorial on conducting visual assessments of industrial stormwater discharges. This is part 3 of a 3-part series, and it addresses the subject of the visual assessment of the stormwater sample. A certified operator needs to conduct the visual assessment of the stormwater sample collected at each discharge point. This can be done after the sample is taken to a well-lit area. If the certified operator was not available at the time of the collection, the assessment of the properly stored sample will need to be conducted within 48 hours of collection. To conduct the visual assessment, the certified operator will need to gently shake or mix the sample before conducting the assessment. When the stormwater samples are collected from each discharge point, be sure to label the samples. Samples should be labeled with the discharge point number, the date and time of collection, and the date and time of the beginning of the discharge event. Please note that these labels for the jars on the slide do not include the date and time of the beginning of the discharge event. This example slide label includes the required information. Include the name of the certified operator or other trained personnel who collected the sample. The personnel collecting the sample and the certified operator who conducted the visual assessment of the stormwater sample must be included on the report form. The certified operator must review and sign the report form after visually assessing the sample collected during the discharge event. Be sure to include the nature of the storm event in the report. If there are unusual characteristics of the discharge, determine the probable source of the contamination. For example, in these photos, the petroleum sheen at the outfall was due to fuel spillage at the fueling area. If the discharge has any of the unnatural characteristics we have described, take corrective actions as soon as possible. If these unnatural characteristics are present in the receiving waters as a result of the discharge, there may be a violation of the narrative standard. Any unnatural characteristics of the discharge that could cause a violation of the water quality standards in the receiving waters shall be reported within 24 hours to the department. The verbal report must be followed by a written report within 5 days detailing the findings of the investigation and the steps taken to correct the condition. A discharge that does not meet the narrative standard may be a violation of the water quality standards in the receiving waters and could be a violation of the permit. Use good professional judgment. If you think the unnatural characteristics could pose a threat to the public or the environment, make the call. The purpose of the visual assessment is to determine the effectiveness of the control measures in place at the facility. There may be unnatural characteristics that do not constitute a violation of the permit. If unnatural characteristics persist during the discharge, it warrants further investigation to determine the possible source of contamination. Failure to investigate and determine the source of the contamination may be a permit violation. For example, a few drops of gasoline can produce a sheen on a discharge, but this sheen is unlikely to persist or cause harm to the receiving waters. However, a larger spill of gasoline would be more persistent in causing a sheen on a discharge and would warrant cleanup at the source of contamination. It could also pose health risks to the public and have an impact on the receiving waters. Therefore, when unnatural characteristics are observed, they should be documented and further investigation should be conducted to determine if the observed characteristics warrant immediate action or would be something that could be addressed by improved housekeeping practices. After the sample is visually assessed by the certified operator, a colored photo of the sample against a white background must be taken. The photo or other visual recordings must be saved for documentation. If the sample was not able to be collected during the first 30 minutes of discharge, a written explanation needs to be included in the documentation. In summary, plan ahead and prepare a sampling kit for collecting stormwater samples so you'll be ready when qualifying storm events occur. Provide appropriate training for the certified operators or other staff that will be collecting the sample which will be used to conduct the visual assessment. Document what is observed at the discharge point at the time of the discharge. A certified operator must visually assess the stormwater sample and record the characteristics of the sample with a photograph and a written report. If there were water quality concerns or unnatural characteristics in the discharge, make corrective actions in a timely manner. If the discharge is causing a violation of the water quality standards, notify the district office. If you have questions on developing your written procedures for conducting the visual assessment, please call industrial stormwater staff. Compliance assistance documents are available on the industrial webpage of the stormwater website. A staff contact list is available on the industrial program page of the stormwater website. Remember, the goal is clean discharges of stormwater. In most situations, if the stormwater discharge does not have any unnatural characteristics, we know that the controls in place at the facility are effective and the receiving waters are not being impacted. The visual assessment of stormwater discharges will help you determine when your controls need to be altered or improved. Please direct your questions to industrial stormwater staff in your local district office.